We're back here on the GoGamecocks.com college football preview show. Today we're going to talk about defense and special teams. When you talk about South Carolina's defense, you start with the defensive line, mainly because that's where number 7 plays. What do you expect, A, from Jadeveon Clowney, and then B, from the other guys who play on this defensive line this year?
Well, obviously, Josh, it all starts with Jadeveon Clowney. You know, he's the poster boy for this football team, for this football program right now. Covers Sports Illustrated and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the guy can be a dominant player. Lorenzo Ward has said several times that they want to get him to play at just 90%.
Right.
Not even 100, 90%, because they know that 90% is a whole lot better than what he's going to be facing. The guy can disrupt games, and they want him to play that hard all the time, and he can be that man. Now, he's going to get double teamed. He might even get triple teamed sometimes. That leaves it up to the other defensive end, Chaz Sutton, and maybe behind him a guy in Darius English who's shown a lot of talent so far despite not playing. But those two guys are going to get their chances. Chaz Sutton set a school strength record over the offseason, so he's a guy that can definitely play if he can get over this nagging foot sprain that he's had a little bit. But, you know, those two guys will be able to lead the charge. And then, of course, in the defensive interior, you have Kelsey Quarles, who can have a big season, and you have Gerald Dixon Jr., who's battling with J.T. Surratt for that other DT spot. You know, basically between Clowney and Dixon Jr., you have a couple of Rock Hill boys right there on the defensive line. And as we all know, when in doubt, give the ball to the Rock Hill kid.
That's right, a Rock Hill native right here to my right, in case you missed out on that fact. And for my money, Dixon Jr. is kind of the wild card. I think he could be a good player. But if you go right behind the defensive line, then you get to the big question mark on this defense, which is the linebackers. The linebackers and the Spurs, but specifically those linebackers. And they're young. And the first night out of the gate, they've got to play North Carolina, which is going to try to run them ragged and make them think, and think fast, fast, fast. The second week of the season, they're going to play Georgia, which is going to run it right at them and try to run over them. So they're going to go right into the fire quickly, and how ready they are will have a lot to do with whether or not South Carolina's 2-0, 1-1 at the end of that first 2-game stretch. So for me, linebackers are critically important. Cedric Cooper's a guy I like. I think Cedric Cooper is a really good linebacker. Looks like an Alabama linebacker to me, and that's, you know, as high praise as I can give a linebacker. Kywan Lewis, though, may be the most important guy out there right now. The middle linebacker, he's got to communicate. For a young guy, that's sometimes difficult. He talks a lot. They praise the way he communicates, but he's got to be right every time. And that's tough for a young guy. You expect some mistakes there. When he makes mistakes, or the Gamecocks going to pay for it. Behind that is probably the most quiet, despite the fact that Vic Hampton's back there, but the most quiet group on this defense, which is the secondary. 3 starters back. You're looking at Vic Hampton. You're looking at Jimmy Legree, guys you feel good about. Are they good? Are they more than that? I think that's an important question.
Well, it is one of those things, Josh. In the secondary, you know, you really haven't heard a lot about them except the word concerns, despite having 3 starters back. And why is that? Because the one guy that's gone is DJ Swearinger. DJ Swearinger, you know, the unquestioned leader of last year's defense, and some say the entire team, a guy who played his tail off every single snap for this university and this program, and, you know, a guy that ate, breathed, and slept football. You know, he just wanted to be there all the time. You can't replace a guy like that right off, but now you have a guy who has those tendencies in Vic Hampton. He's got all the talent in the world. He's got all the upside in the world. He's just got to go out and get it done consistently. Jimmy Legree had some big interceptions last year, made some big plays. You know, Bryson Williams is going to be back there at the safety spot. He's going to have to really step it up and show what he can do. And then, of course, you're cycling in a couple of fresh guys at the other safety spot. So it's going to be a challenge, Josh. I mean, you mentioned the linebackers, how young they are. The secondary guys, they're not really young, but the fact is that they just didn't have to do that much last year because Swearinger and the defensive line was handling it all. They're going to have to do that, particularly in these first 2 weeks, against a passing quarterback in Bryn Renner and a passing quarterback in Aaron Murray, who's, you know, got 2 of the best tailbacks in the country also with him. So secondary is going to be tested right off. They're going to have to produce.
Sherrod Golightly at Spur, Jordan Diggs. How much, you know, what's that rotation going to look like? How much can Sherrod Golightly help you? For me, he looks more like a guy who is the Antonio Allen type of Spur than the Devontae Holloman type. That position is fascinating to me, and that you can have a guy who was 220, like Antonio Allen playing it, or a guy who was 250, maybe 255 at some point, and Devontae Holloman playing it. So if Sherrod Golightly, you go back to more of a safety in the linebacker/safety hybrid than a Holloman, who was more of a linebacker in that mold. How much will it affect the defense? I don't know, but I don't think you can have too many fast guys, particularly when you're talking about playing North Carolina. You can have too many fast guys on the field. How much does Sherrod Golightly play? How much does Jordan Diggs play? There, I don't think we'll know that until we get rolling this year.
Josh, it could be a rotation kind of thing where one plays mostly on third downs. It's kind of, I mean, you don't go with the nickel package because you already have that spur out on the field, but it could be where one's playing in specifically third downs and one's playing the others. And, they want these guys to be like Allen and Darian Stewart, who was the spur when Ellis Johnson first came in. They want to see those guys if they can do both. Right now, maybe not, but they feel they can get enough with a rotation to have enough productivity.
Between the two of them. And now special teams, which is a question mark.
Big question mark.
People will talk about special teams and they'll start talking about Ace Sanders. How do you replace Ace Sanders in that punt return game? And that's important, but they've got guys like Vic Hampton back there who they'll find somebody, I think, who will be okay there. For my money, it's place kicker and long snapper Joe Robinson. You spoke to him. Mm-hmm. He said, we just don't know.
Wide open.
And you would like to, 2 weeks out, know a little more. You'd like to feel a little bit more comfortable with the guy. Steve Spurrier, as we know, was looking for most any excuse not to kick field goals, and I think we may be headed for that kind of year where you're going to see some 4th and 4 inside on your side of the field, and you're just going to go for it. And that strategy has worked for him. I'm a firm believer that you can kick too many field goals. Go for touchdowns, and I think South Carolina will go for touchdowns. So, that being said, they're going to have to kick a field goal here or there. Guys like Landon Ard, guys like Nick St. Germain, one of those guys likely, I would guess, is going to win the place kicking job and is going to have to make a kick this year. You just hope you can make it.
You have to, I agree with that completely, Josh. I mean, USC got spoiled, when it had Ryan Suckup, a hugely talented kicker, and then Spencer Lanning, a kid maybe not that talented, but a kid who busted his tail to be as good as he could be. They got spoiled with that. And the past two guys, Jay Woot and Adam Yates, they haven't been bad, but they haven't been great. And it's kind of based on this reliance that says, don't kick unless you just absolutely have to. Ard, St. Germain, Elliott Fry, and Max Huggins were brought in specifically as walk-on place kickers. Maybe one of them wins the job. I'm pretty sure in saying it, Josh. One of those guys misses a kick, you're going to see an open tryout maybe week to week this year.
Absolutely. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about the Gamecock schedule.